Welcome back everybody, my name is Nick930 and this is my final review for the open world pirate adventure game Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is a multiplayer focused pirate simulator that lets you and up to 3 friends sail the 7 seas and complete various quests while trying to fend off rival players' ships. Now, contrary to what I said in my first impressions video, this game doesn't feature a full campaign at all. It really is just an objective-based multiplayer game, and the real value of this game doesn't come from the gold-plated pistols and jackets you can unlock, but more on the multiplayer experience itself. Now that the matchmaking functions more reliably, there's never a shortage of other players online, all trying to chase after your ship and steal your gold. I think the best way to describe this game's design is the crate-based missions in Grand Theft Auto Online's free mode. You'll accept a quest from one of the few outposts scattered evenly around the map, and then set sail to one of the many small islands to recover the valuable loot. The quest can vary from fighting off some skeleton enemies, following a treasure map, or simply recovering some wild animals. There's also a few fortresses that feature some challenging fights with several skeleton enemies. Fortresses marked with a gigantic skull cloud will offer a massive reward, but it will take a lot of skill to defeat the boss and will be highly sought after by experienced players. The loot you recover from these adventures will then need to be transported back to an outpost, and you'll run the risk of being intercepted by other players that are more than willing to open fire and try to steal your treasure. And this is where the game can be really entertaining, as you and your friends try to outsmart nearby players and deliver the treasure. If you successfully deliver this loot back to an outpost, you'll be rewarded with gold and experience points towards specific mission vendors. That allows you to take on more rewarding quests in the future. The gold can't be spent to upgrade your character's abilities in any way, which ensures a level playing field for new and old players alike, and can only be spent on cosmetic items like golden peg legs and flashy colorful sails. So yes, the game can be boiled down to being a bunch of repetitive fetch quests, with the potential reward of some cosmetic items, but that would be oversimplifying the experience significantly. The main draw of this game isn't the progression or the rewards like so many other modern games, but more so the actual experience itself. The most fun part of the game is the actual sailing. Rare has done an excellent job simulating the feel of sailing. You'll need to coordinate with your teammates to raise the anchor, trim the sails, tack the sail to adjust for wind, and even repair damages to the hull and bail water out with buckets. It's a surprisingly involved process, and having a team that coordinates well is an absolute must if you plan on taking on difficult fortresses or other players. Combat is very simple, but also very well balanced. You have access to 4 different personal weapons: a cutlass, a pistol, a shotgun, and a sniper rifle. Players are only given a few shots with each weapon, but an infinite ammo box can be located on every ship, and at most locations. All of the weapons can be upgraded cosmetically with your gold, but the stats remain the same no matter what, to ensure you're never outpaced by players with more hours. Killing an enemy player is generally pretty easy, but because of the game's outdated animations and lack of standard posture settings like crouch or prone, it can feel a bit off when compared to other more modern shooters. And killing an individual player may not be the most useful tactic. Players that are killed are basically put into timeout in Davy Jones' locker, and after waiting a little bit, they can respawn back on their own ship. The only way to truly take out hostile players is to sink their ship, and doing this is a much more difficult task. Player ships aren't designed with a health bar like traditional games, so you'll need to actually focus on filling the enemy ship with as much water as possible until it can't be recovered. The best way to do this is to fire cannonballs at their hull below sea level to ensure that they spring a leak. It'll take a while for players to recover from damage like this, so enough clean shots below sea level will ensure that the player's ship will sink, and then killing them will force them and their ship to respawn at a nearby outpost, far enough away that you'll be able to steal their treasure and sail away. And while all that sounds pretty straightforward, it'll take some excellent communication and skill to pull off successfully, as you'll need to take into account wind direction, resources, and various other factors to ensure you'll end up on top. So what do I mean by resources? Well, each ship comes equipped with a set amount of basic resources: bananas to restore player health, boards to help repair damages, and cannonballs. All of these resources can be found all around the game world at various islands and shipwrecks, and you'll need to make sure that you stock up because most large battles against other players turn into a war of attrition. Running out of any of these resources will make it incredibly difficult to overtake hostile ships, meaning you'll be forced to either give up or sink. If you load back into the game the next day to play, these resources are not saved, so if you plan on stocking up on things like cannonballs, make sure you plan on using them all that day. The only information that's saved between play sessions is the amount of gold you have and the cosmetics that you've purchased, and of course quest progression. But it's not all just fighting other players for their gold. Sea of Thieves at its core is a very lighthearted and fun experience. It's designed to be silly and has some fun things to discover. You can play instruments with your friends, get completely wasted on grog and throw up on each other, and even vote to lock your friend in the brig down below deck. You can even climb into your own cannons and fire yourself across the sea, which can be incredibly useful for boarding enemy ships or getting to land faster. The game mechanics are very well realized and function well to deliver a challenging and rewarding experience. Now, in terms of graphics and performance, the game looks absolutely beautiful despite its simplistic design. Wave simulation is excellent, and rightfully so, as it plays a critical role in how the gameplay functions. Islands, while generally pretty small, look fantastic with colorful vegetation that is affected by player interaction. But I do wish that the LOD was adjustable for higher end machines, as objects in the distance can look very misleading, especially fortress towers. Performance is excellent on my current computer configuration, with frame rates sitting in at around 110 FPS on average. When running at 4K, performance dips substantially down to 50 FPS in dense outpost areas. And on the Xbox One X, which also runs natively at 4K, performance is locked at 30 FPS, which is actually pretty disappointing considering the simplistic graphic design. So then, what's wrong with Sea of Thieves? Well, for starters, there needs to be far more cosmetic items to unlock. Currently, there's a large collection of very expensive items, from golden pistols to golden water buckets, but that'll only go so far. I think if Rare wants to keep this experience interesting, they're going to need to add more to the ship customization. Let players customize the layout of their ship, maybe change the types of ship weapons like mortars, fire barrels, and front-mounted cannons. Adding this would go a long way to ensure fights with other players will be different every time. I'm also disappointed to see that there's no way to cripple a ship's mast. Taking down a rival ship's mast is critical in this type of naval combat, and it would be a nice feature to add in. Maybe allow players to repair the mast with several pieces of wood or something. Another thing that should be added are AI-controlled ships. Either merchant or pirates would make the sea feel more alive and more interesting. Fighting other players online is always challenging, and it would be nice to have some smaller merchant vessels to practice your skills on. I also wouldn't mind seeing an increase to the player count. Currently, the maximum amount for players allowed in a single crew is 4. Why not add in another option that allows for 6 or even 8 players on a massive man-of-war ship? I love how you can choose between 2 types of ships now, either a small sloop or a large galleon, but an even larger ship for a bigger group of players would be awesome. More variety in locations would also be a very good idea. Maybe expand the map north and give us some frozen areas, with ice patches that will slow movement and snowstorms. There also needs to be more player versus environment locations to explore. Dense caves filled with a long series of AI enemies and valuable loot would help to mix up the gameplay quite a bit. The game suffers substantially when it comes to a single-player experience. You either get destroyed around every turn by larger groups of players, all stealing the loot that you spent a lot of time obtaining by yourself, or trolled by your own teammates you attempt to randomly join on. I tried joining a random group of players on a galleon online only to be instantly voted into the brink down below deck, forcing me to just quit back to the main menu. I love the idea of goofing off and sending a friend to jail, but if it's going to be abused like this online, then something really needs to be done to fix it. And finally, I think the game should have some kind of safe zone, like a larger hub area that are off limits to combat. You currently can be killed absolutely everywhere in the game, even at outposts while shopping at a vendor. There should be a large civilization island with safe zones so players can meet up with other pirates and form parties. I think it would go a long way in strengthening the community and also adding in some nice variety to the experience. Sea of Thieves is a refreshing change of pace from the current online shooter market, with more of a focus on skill of sailing rather than on shooting skill. The game offers no real story, and its mission structure is based entirely off of fetch quests. The rewards for completing quests should be expanded upon to keep players coming back for more, and the game world needs to be expanded upon with more variety to locations and things to do and customize. The game shines its best when you play with your friends online on a large galleon, but if you try to play alone, you're likely not going to have as much fun as you'd expect. The current asking price definitely seems way too steep for what's on offer here, so unless you have a lot of friends already playing the game and enjoying themselves, I recommend holding off until there's a price drop, or Rare adds in substantial amount of content. I hope this review was helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to post them below. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more content posted every week.